All right, so we've talked about marketing, we've talked about budgeting. One of the things I'm going to spend a little time about right now talking about is money management. Money comes in, money comes out. You heard from Carrie earlier when she talked about cash flow statements and profit and loss statements and kind of what those different statements were and how they're used. One of the things is understanding what your program needs versus what your program wants. Understanding your return on investment. And I like to talk to people to think about it when they're looking at hiring staff, when they're looking at curriculum choices, when they're looking at supplies for their classroom. What is your return on investment? We'll be talking about staffing in the staffing section. So from a money management standpoint, we're going to be talking about that. It's also important to understand how to manage your money when it comes to staffing, because that's your largest expense most likely in your program. For those of you who are in large programs, churches, school districts, I realize that some of what we're going to talk about isn't really, you're going to feel it's not for you because you don't handle the budget, but you are the steward of the program's money. Okay, so money management is very much your thing. As a director, your job is to be fiscally responsible, and I don't care whose money it is. Especially if you're in a school district or a church, that's not your money in any way, shape, or form. You know, don't think that just because you're in a large company that this large company has lots of money. Depending on your community, depending on what's going on with the economics in your community or even nationally, this can all affect big programs, small programs, churches, schools. It affects everybody. If something doesn't make sense from a money standpoint, don't do it. If somebody comes in and wants to sell you something, wait. If you get something in the mail, research it. Ask other programs. Figure out if this is really something that's worth your investment. Some of my favorite things that I always have to come back to get folks to look at are things as simple as food programs, registration software. You know, sometimes these are like, oh, this is going to simplify your life. But was that part of your life that complicated? If you're using a food program, do you really know what the time investment is going to be for you? And is that going to really offset your benefits within that food program? So the first thing we want to do in money management is plan for an emergency. Okay, I've realized that we're all sitting here going, well, of course. But you know what? Most programs don't have an emergency fund. They don't have $1,000 that they can go grab when the hot water tank busts. They don't have $1,000 ready when they have to rekey the entire facility because you had an employee who left. Sometimes they go, oh, well, I have a credit card. Get out of that habit. Be fiscally responsible and make sure that you have an emergency fund. Okay? Last thing you want is a summer day in the AC unit go and you have to figure out how to come up with $1,000. After you've come up with your $1,000 emergency fund, start to create your marketing budget, your replacement fund. At some point in time, your carpet, flooring, and even your playground are going to need some upgrades or replacement. Don't try to work those into your annual budget. Create plans now and put that little $20 a month aside. That's being fiscally responsible. Last but not least, try your hardest to get 1 to 6 months of operating expenses into the bank. Now, if you are thinking about starting your own business, right now you're looking at this and you're going to be a director of a program, or you are a director of a program. Maybe you are the owner. Do you have a cash reserve? If something happens and the major employer in your town lays off half your staff and half their staff and out go your kids in your program, do you have a way to continue to keep your program running and operating under the quality program that you like to have? If you're not sure about this, this is an opportunity for you to go, okay, I got to buckle down and I got to save some money. It is not doing it with credit cards. It's not doing it with no interest loans. It's you being fiscally responsible in advance and taking care of that. We have more to cover in money management, so I'm going to turn it over to Carrie Casey, and Carrie's going to talk to you about some other things related to money management. My last thing about money management is anytime you buy anything, keep your receipt, make sure it's dated, keep all of the paperwork, and my favorite way to keep that organized is in a 3-ring binder. Take those plastic sleeves, in the plastic sleeve, put all the instruction manuals, put the receipt. This goes with equipment, playground equipment, anything you have to buy. I don't care if it's a vacuum. A lot of those folks, a lot of the manufacturers will replace them, fix them, but you have to have that original receipt, and sometimes you need those warranty papers. Put them in a place immediately where you know where it's going to be. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Money management. We've talked about this a little bit, but there's a couple things I just really want to make sure you understand. We have 2 finite resources, money and time. You can do 3 things with those 2 items. You can spend them, you can invest them, or you can waste them. Any of those are possible, and some decisions could be all 3, depending upon the situation. Going to the movie with somebody you think is kind of cute when you're 18. Is that wasting money, investing money, or spending money? Well, if this is somebody you're evaluating to see whether they'd make a good spouse, perhaps it's an investment. So you're investing some of your time and some of your money in trying to determine whether this is the right person. Sometimes it's wasting money because you know this movie is not going to be very good. You've read the reviews, or all of your friends told you it was horrid. But you go to see it anyway because it's a Friday night, and that's what you do on a Friday night is you go to a movie. Or sometimes you just spend it, which is you go see a movie that's just going to be fun. It's not going to do anything to increase your knowledge of the world. It's not going to do anything to enrich you except allow you to have some downtime. So spending money and time on a movie could be an investment, it could be spending, or it could be wasting. Depends on the situation. Every time you are spending money or time is leaving your possession, you have made a decision to invest it, spend it, or waste it. But an awful lot of times, we didn't really think about it. We just sort of let it happen. Do a cost benefits analysis as often as you can. Kate talked about this a little bit. It's very important. Really think about, is this going to save me money? Is it going to save me time? Is it going to earn me new clients? What is this decision going to cost in the long run? Okay. One other thing we want to talk about with money management is really being aware of when you're gambling and how you're gambling. Insurance is the #1 way to gamble in the United States. The person who takes out the insurance is betting they're going to need the coverage. And the insurance company is betting you're not going to need it. So, this is a type of gambling we do in our program all the time. Did you buy the liability insurance, the business liability? Did you get that unowned vehicle insurance because you don't have a car or a van for your business, but what if one of your staff members gets in an accident coming back from Hobby Lobby or Walmart picking up materials for your program? You're betting that may happen. The insurance company is betting you're not. Other ways that we do this is whether or not we choose to have a relationship with an attorney. Attorneys are useful. They can review your policies and handbooks and see, are you following the current letter of the law? If you have any contracts, if you have enrollment contracts or employment contracts, they can look them over and see whether you've handled things correctly, whether your rights are protected. They can also answer questions when weird things happen. We end up getting a fair amount of those calls because directors don't have relationships with lawyers. But it's a good thing to have. If somebody breaks into your center and you can tell it's been broken into because the window in the office has been jimmied open and the filing cabinet is, the top drawer is open about 6 inches, but nothing else seems to be missing, and the door into the program itself was not unlocked. What do you do? If you have a relationship with a lawyer, you can call them and say, what do I do? They'll tell you first you need to call the police, and then they'll give you the next steps after that. These types of precautions are what we mean by gambling and taking out insurance. Another one is, do you have a relationship with a payroll service or an accountant, or both? Now, one thing that is without a doubt true is that getting behind in your taxes, we've talked about this before, is incredibly dangerous for your business. But it can also be very expensive. So if you have a payroll service and they didn't send the right amount in to the IRS, you're not on the hook if they made the mistake. They'll have to cover any penalties and fines. There is a section in your textbook about the penalties and fines, and it is taken from the IRS. There is a section in your text about taxes provided by the IRS. Please take this seriously. Decide whether you can prepare your taxes or whether you need to have someone else do it, both your quarterly and your annual taxes as well as your payroll taxes. Very few people are well qualified to do this. So really think long and hard before deciding not to employ an accountant or a bookkeeper for your program.